Sup guys, it's Alex here and welcome to a 2022 edition of the Bracketology update. I did one on Saturday as the new year turn the calendar, flip, whatever you want to call it. But today we have our first true 2022 Bracketology update. Last night, Wisconsin went on the road and upset Purdue, who was a 1 seed, but they fell to the 2 line. Joe Lunardi has taken a fresh look at the bracket, at all the bubble watch and the bracketology and all that stuff. And there has been a ton of movement, ton of teams moving seed lines, all that stuff. There's going to be some great basketball tonight. I mean, we have Michigan at Rutgers. Michigan has to win that, and you'll see why in a second. Then we have, I think, Memphis, and somebody else is playing. I can't remember who it is. And then we have, in the marquee matchup tonight, LSU versus Kentucky. Can Kentucky's hot run as of late, winning 4 games by 25 or more in a row, will it come to an end tonight against LSU? As a Kentucky fan, I hope not. I hope we get the dub, but that game should be fantastic. Those two teams, along with Tennessee and Auburn, are probably the cream of the crop right now in the SEC, so it'll be interesting to see where both of those teams kind of stand right now. But taking a look here at the bracket watch, top overall seed is Baylor. They survived a scare from a really game Iowa State team. They are looking like the best team in college basketball right now. First team out, as I just mentioned, Michigan. They have to win this game against Rutgers. Michigan was a 1 seed last year in last year's tournament. They were also a 1 seed, I believe, in the preseason this year. And to now be out of the tournament just 2 months into the season, this team needs to turn it around and quick. Hunter Dickinson can only do so much. Granted, this team isn't as experienced as last year's squad was, but they have pieces there. They have Juwan Howard. This was supposed to be a national title contender. Right now, they are outside of the bracket, and the last team in is the team that just beat them a couple of weeks ago, UCF. Then taking a look here at the bubble, last 4 byes are Florida, Mississippi State, Indiana, and Virginia Tech. Last 4 in are St. Mary's, Creighton, Davidson, and UCF. First 4 out are Michigan and Memphis, the 2 teams that most people are talking about right now in college basketball, along with Belmont and St. Bonaventure. And then the next 4 out are Clemson, TCU, Wake Forest, and Florida State. 3 ACC teams in the next 4 out right now. So taking a look here at the movement in the bracketology before I get to my predictions here in a bit, I'll probably end up going to the Indianapolis site games, the first and second round. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Over in the South Regional, we have St. Louis into the field as the automatic qualifier for, I want to say, the MVC. I can't remember off the top of my head which conference they're in. Navy up to a 14. Creighton new to the field in the playing game there on the 10 line. And then Northern Colorado new to the field as a 15 as the automatic qualifier from there. Over in the East Regional, we now have San Francisco up to 9. That team is 13-1 out of the West Coast Conference. They have a huge matchup against Gonzaga on Thursday. They don't have to win that game, but they just need to look competitive. They need to give Gonzaga at least a ball game for that team to be taken seriously and deserve a 9 or higher seed. And we have Alabama down to a 4. Abilene Christian, the team that upset Texas as a 14 seed last year, they are the current automatic qualifier from their conference as a 13 seed. Louisville up to an 11. They are currently the automatic qualifier with a 3-0 record in the ACC. Villanova up to a 3 after beating, it was either Seton Hall or Creighton. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was Seton Hall. Wagner down to a 14. Mississippi State up to a 10, and then Campbell up to a 15. Then over there in the West Regional, West Virginia down to an 8. Florida up to a 9. Iowa State down to a 5. Ohio State down to a 4, getting paired up with fellow state mate Ohio as the automatic qualifier from there. Kentucky up to a 3. Liberty up to a 14, and Indiana down to a 10. Then taking a look over here at the Midwest Regional, Kansas moving up to the 1 line to take the spot of Purdue. And I had Kansas beating Purdue, I think, in a national championship and a couple of bracketologies ago. Now Kansas is looking like the better team. SMU new to the field as the 12 line there. They are the current automatic qualifier from the American. Wisconsin up to a 6. As I just mentioned, they beat Purdue, and right now they're paired up in the same region. And we have San Diego State new to the field as an 11. Louisiana new to the field as a 14. Seton Hall down to a 7. Virginia Tech new to the field as a 10. And Purdue down to a 2. So, as you guys know, every single bracketology that happens, I go ahead and update the Excel bracket, and I give my thoughts and predictions for this bracket, just like if it was a normal NCAA tournament video. And let's go ahead and kick this thing off with Baylor. Obviously, they're going to beat the winner of Southern and William & Mary. That one's pretty obvious. Then we're going to have Loyola Chicago moving on in the first year pass in the post-Porter Moser era. They'll beat BYU. LSU, I think, will be able to handle St. Louis. Then we are going to go with Houston here beating South Dakota State. I think Houston is ripe for an upset. I haven't been able to get an update on Mark and Sasser. I just need to look that up. I think they're right for a first-round upset with the injuries that they've had, but I think they'd be able to beat South Dakota State. Then we're going to have Connecticut moving on past UAB, Auburn defeating Navy. Then we are going to have Iowa with a Player of the Year contender moving on past the winner of St. Mary's and Creighton, which I think would probably be Creighton at this point in time. And then UCLA moving on past Northern Colorado. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, Baylor moving on past Chicago. Slight upset here with 5-seed LSU moving on past 4-seed Houston. Then we're going to have Auburn here moving on past UConn along with UCLA over Iowa. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, Baylor will defeat LSU there. And we are also going to have UCLA moving on past Auburn. So we're going to have a 1 versus 2 matchup here. I think these two teams are 2 of the top 5 teams in college basketball right now. This could be a national championship game, but we're seeing it here in the Elite Eight. And as much as I want to pick UCLA moving on, I believe in that team a lot this year. I got to go with Baylor. They're undefeated at this point in the season. Doing fantastic after 4 of their players from the national championship team last year ended up leaving the program, whether graduating or going to the draft or whatever it be. That team is looking fantastic right now. So we'll go ahead and scroll down here to the bottom left regional. We'll have Kansas moving on past Cornell. North Carolina will move on past Minnesota. Then I'm going to go with an upset pick here. I'm going to go with SMU 12/5, a classic upset line over Xavier. Tennessee, I think, will be able to beat Oakland if I can click that. There we go. Wisconsin will beat San Diego State. USC will move on past Louisiana. Seton Hall will handle Virginia Tech. And then we got Purdue here moving on past VMI. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Kansas beating North Carolina in a battle of college basketball blue bloods there. We're going to have Tennessee moving on past SMU. Wisconsin. I know this is pretty reactionary and USC is number 7 in the nation for a reason, but this is a reactionary video. I mean, why not have some fun here on the January 4th edition of the Bracketology update? We still got 2 months and a half to go until the actual tournament. Why not have Wisconsin upset USC there in a 6/3, where they will have their rematch with Purdue, who moves on past Seton Hall. For a spot in the Elite Eight, though, we are going to go with an upset with Tennessee, the 4-seed here, moving on past Kansas. Tennessee has beaten Arizona. Kansas hasn't really beaten a quality opponent yet. I guess they did beat Michigan State in the Champions Classic. They do have a matchup with Kentucky coming up, and they obviously have the Big 12 coming up as well. We'll see what happens with Kansas, but I believe in Tennessee to beat them as of this moment. And Tennessee will face the winner of Wisconsin and Purdue, which, I mean, right now you got to go with Wisconsin. They just beat Purdue on Purdue's home floor. It's not like they beat them at home to where you can make an argument for home court advantage. Wisconsin moving on, which sets up a 4 versus 6 here in the Elite Eight. Tennessee will move on to the Final Four out of this regional. So all you Tennessee fans who say I hate because I'm a Kentucky fan, shut up. All right, moving over here to the top right regional. We're obviously going to have Duke moving on past the winner of Norfolk and New Jersey Institute of Technology. Oklahoma, I think, will fall to San Francisco. Providence will move on past Iona, along with Alabama past Abilene Christian. Texas, I think, can handle Louisville. Villanova will beat Wagner. Then we're going to go with Colorado State, who I believe is undefeated at this point in time. I'll have to double check. And then Michigan State moving on past Campbell. Then we'll have Duke moving on to the Sweet 16 over San Francisco. Providence, I think, is a better team than Alabama, or at least they're a more consistent team than Alabama is at this point in the year. They'll move on to the Sweet 16 along with Texas over Villanova. And then we'll have Michigan State over Colorado State in a battle of the states there. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we're going to have Duke here moving on past Providence, where they will face the winner of Texas and Michigan State. Like both these teams this year, but I'm going to go with Michigan State moving on there. And they will face, in Michigan State, moving on past Duke. I had it in the last bracketology that I did. I think that they can beat Duke in a battle of 2 really good coaches, Coach K versus Tom Izzo's really good programs there. Michigan State moves on to the Final Four. And so we move to the last regional here. Gonzaga will beat Nichols. Then we're going to have Florida here moving on past West Virginia. Iowa State moving on past Murray State. Though Murray State can spring an upset on somebody like they did on Memphis. Ohio State, I think, can beat Ohio. Illinois, I think, will fall to the winner of Davidson and UCF. Then Kentucky will beat Liberty. Then we're going to have Texas Tech beating Indiana and Arizona over Cal State Fullerton. Then for a spot in Sweet 16, Gonzaga moving on past Florida. Iowa State here moving on past Ohio State. And then we'll have Kentucky moving on past the winner of Davidson and UCF. And then Arizona will beat Texas Tech. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we're going to have Gonzaga beating Iowa State, and then Kentucky moving on past Arizona. Then these two teams have been saying if Kentucky or Gonzaga gets a game gets a game canceled due to COVID, these two teams will play each other. Calipari and Mark Few have been talking about it. And as much as I want Kentucky to win this game, I just can't pick them to beat Gonzaga at this current moment. I got Gonzaga moving on to the Final Four and having 2 #1 seeds in the Final Four, which is not chalk when all things are considered. So then in the Final Four, for a spot in the national championship game, we're going to have Baylor here moving on past Tennessee. And then I think Gonzaga will end up beating Michigan State. Baylor versus Gonzaga, probably the 2 best teams in college basketball, I think, in my opinion, at this point in time. And you got to go with Baylor winning it all right now with the run they've been on recently. So there we have it. That's my prediction for the college basketball season, the NCAA tournament, as it happens based off of Joe Lunardi's Bracketology today. Let me know what you guys think of my predictions. Let me know your own predictions, and I will see you all later.